going on? It's CVV, Chris Van Vliet. And how are you not subscribed to DNC Digital? Do it. Subscribe right now.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy D from DNC Digital, back with another episode of DNC Radio. My guest today is Chris Van Vliet. I don't think that guy needs an introduction, but if you do, he is an Emmy Award-winning journalist who does entertainment reporting. He has his own YouTube channel that is blowing up and will continue to blow up. He has a presence in the pro wrestling world, and I am just elated to have him. This is a word I haven't used in a long time. Chris, welcome to the show, bud.
Thanks, D. I'm elated to be here.
I appreciate that. Did everybody hear that? Everybody already heard that. Chris Van Vliet is a fan of the show.
Elated, yeah.
How have you been during everything? Because I know COVID shut everything down. So, like, what kind of did that like disrupt your speed as far as your job goes? Because everything slowed down. You know, red carpets are shut down. You know, theaters are not releasing movies. What's it been like for you in the entertainment world?
It's definitely been an adjustment for everybody. You know, no matter what you do, it's been a huge adjustment. For me in my personal life, like every day started at the gym. Well, gyms were closed for a while. Here in California, gyms are still closed, but some have reopened in parking lots. But in terms of the entertainment world, like that's come to a screeching halt. Movies really aren't being released in theaters. Theaters aren't even open in some states. Production has started up again. Mm-hmm. Red carpets, I don't know if that's going to be a thing for another, few years. So it's definitely different. But I think what's cool about this is it's all given us a chance to kind of pause and kind of realize what's important to us, who's important to us. And it's also given us a chance to pivot. And I think, the phrase that comes to mind is if you keep doing the same things, you'll keep getting the same results. Well, this has forced us to do different things and then therefore get different results.
Do you think when it comes to people who have their set plan, it's more difficult for them?
Oh, 100%. And if you're not able to be malleable and like pivot and change when life around you changes, you're going to be left behind. And I think that there's unfortunately a lot of people who go, it's going to be this way. And, the journey never looks like how you thought it would look. And it comes to mind when The Rock said to me, sometimes the best things in life are the things that don't happen. You have this idea, this plan of how it's going to go. Yep. I'm going to be married by this age. I'm going to have a kid by this age. I'm going to, be a millionaire by this age, whatever it happens to be. And your path ends up going differently. But most of the time it works out better in the long run.
I interviewed Rob Paulson. For those who don't know who Rob Paulson is, he played the original Raphael. He played Pinky and Pinky in the Brain. And he, around 3 or 4 years ago, he got throat cancer. And he's a voice actor. So He's like, that was an easy way of saying, God, you make plans and God just laughs at you. And so your journey, when you talk about your journey started back in Canada. So I've learned some things about your high school. There's a motto that says, we always do our best. Is that a model that you've taken with you throughout your entire life?
I'm going to be honest. I forgot that was the motto for Pine Ridge Secondary School in Pickering, Ontario.
But the Fighting Pumas.
I don't know what we're fighting. We're just Yeah, we always do our best. I mean, I'm a big believer in the 4 agreements, and that's actually one of the 4 agreements. It's actually interesting that you're saying that now, and I can kind of link that back together.
Yeah, go ahead. I want to learn about that.
Oh, the 4 agreements is a book that I feel like everybody should read. It's life changing, and it's 4 simple agreements that you can make with yourself. And if you can make these 4 agreements with yourself every single day, you'll live a much better life. And it's be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions, and always do your best. And it sounds so simple to say those 4 things, but if you could do those 4 things in every single aspect of your life, my God, your life would be so much better. So yeah, that's definitely something that I try to do every day. I always try to do my best. And I think that if you're only going to give half of your ass, you're only going to get half of the results.
Not bad. When you go back to high school, do you remember any big rivalry games between you guys and the Spartans across town?
The Dumbarton Spartans.
The Dumbarton Spartans, is that what you're saying?
The Dumbarton Spartans. That was one of our rival high schools in Pickering. Look at you digging deep on this, man.
Oh, you want me to dig even deeper? I've learned that you and Shawn Mendes went to the same high school. Now, not in the same time frame, but back then, how did you woo the girls? Did you do it like Shawn and pulled out the guitar and just started singing?
Man, so Shawn Mendes went to my high school like 15 years after I went there, and he's definitely the most famous person to come out of my high school and probably my hometown. I learned to play guitar when I was 16. I got a guitar for Christmas when I was 16, and I learned how to play G, C, and D. And if you can play G, C, and D,
that's it.
You can pretty much play any song. So I definitely didn't woo the girls, but it definitely created like a bit of like an atmosphere at parties, or if you were just hanging out at someone's house and, their dad had a guitar, I'd grab that and play a few songs. And I still do that. My guitar is sitting 10 feet away from me. It's still something that I pick up every few days and just, play a couple of riffs.
Not bad. Hey, so I saw this past Halloween, you were Tiger King. You were hanging out with Brian Cage and Eli Drake. Brian Cage, I also interviewed earlier this year. He's a hell of a guy. But what was that like? What was the party like? How was your experience that night?
So I was invited to Eli Drake's I wouldn't call this a party. It was more just like a handful of people who, wore costumes and drank, a handful of White Claws and hung out.
Definitely not the definition of a party. I agree.
Hey, drinking White Claws is not a definition.
Not a party. No, it's not.
Yeah, it was just great. Eli lives not even 10 minutes away from me, and he was hosting the party with his girlfriend. And Cage was there. John Morrison was there. Taya was there. Melissa Santos. It was just good to be able to hang out with those people and just look. It's a weird time, as we talked about earlier. It's a weird time right now, but those moments are like a reminder that like life can be normal on the other side of this.
So I learned that after high school, immediately after graduation, you just you went to college, and then after that graduation, you said on social media, though, I'm not accusing you, but you said you kind of fibbed your way into a job.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah, definitely did. So you became a cameraman and just reporting, and then as an intern, they made you just start doing your own stories. So talk to me about rolling the dice, because rolling the dice seems to be something. It's always the first step that everybody is always fearful of. I'm not going to do this 9 to 5. I'm going to follow my dreams. Talk about rolling that dice and how it worked out for you.
I'll take it one step further. It's not just rolling the dice. It's betting on yourself, and nobody knows you better than you know you. Look, I was 21 years old at the time. I was graduating from college. I went to Wilfrid Laurier University in Waterloo, Ontario. I was studying communication studies. I loved my time there, but I knew it wasn't really going to set me up for a job afterwards. So I had a moment. I woke up one day in my senior year, and I was having the best time. I was living with 4 of my best friends. We were, eating pizza and drinking beer whenever we felt like it, going to class if you wanted to, it's college. Right. And it just like hit me one day. I woke up and I went, oh my God, like when I graduate at the end of this year, I'm gonna have to work for like the rest of my life. And if I'm gonna have to do this thing for the next 40 or 50 years of my life, I want to at least enjoy what I do. So that was when I reached out to every radio station, every TV station in my college town, basically said, look, I'm a communication studies major. I'm really passionate about this. Can I come see how it's done in the real world? And one radio station put me on their street team. Another radio station or TV station brought me in to be a volunteer and kind of like work cameras and work VTR, work all the behind the scenes stuff. And then one radio station said, well, we don't take on volunteers, but how would you like a job? I'm like, oh my gosh, like, yes, sure. Say no more. They said it only pays $8 an hour. I'm like, that's $8 more than I thought I was going to be making. And that's kind of where it began. And then as it came closer to graduation time, I was looking for an internship, which I would hope during that internship, I was hoping I could at least put together a demo reel and then get a job in like a smaller city somewhere, maybe move away somewhere. And I lied to get this internship. I reached out to all these TV stations. No one got back to me. And then I found the email online of the general manager for this tiny TV station in Peterborough, Ontario. It's about an hour away from my hometown. And I said, hey, I'm going to be there next week during my spring break. It'd be great to come in and just chat with you about like the possibility of working there. Oh, well, he says, well, if you're going to be in town, I'll bring you in. I'm like, okay, nice. Wow. This was a total lie. I hadn't been to this town in like 10 years. I had no plans to go to this town. But now that he gave me the opportunity, I was in. Mm-hmm. So I went and I met up with him and he looked at my resume and I had all that volunteer experience. Now I had the radio station job. He goes, well, we don't usually do this. We don't usually take on volunteers that aren't like affiliate or interns that aren't affiliated with a school program. But yeah, I'm willing to take a chance on you. And that was really where it all began. And my internship was following around the reporters. And when you're at a small station, you're writing, you're shooting, you're editing, you're doing everything. And I was following them around and kind of seeing how it was done in the real world. And then 2 weeks into my internship, the assignment planner goes, here's your story for the day. I'm like, oh, cool. Like, who am I following today? He's like, well, you're going to follow Terry. You're going to go out with Terry. But this is your story. You're going to be on the 6 o'clock news tonight. Not bad. 2 weeks into my internship. And the crazy...
You must have flashed that smile, Chris.
I was like blown away that this thing was happening. And the craziest part about it, that was my 22nd birthday.
Oh, not bad, man.
So it was May 19th, cool. 2005. I was on TV for the first time, and it's just kind of gone from there. And I just learned in that moment that if you're willing to bet on yourself, if you're willing to roll the dice, as you say, D, it's going to pay off. Maybe not in that exact moment, maybe not a week from now, but it's going to pay off eventually.
You talk about how growth in YouTube is so slow, and that's where my central hub is. Like, I do need to get on a podcast platform, but my thing right now is YouTube. Can you go back to the first video you saw that kind of hooked you and made you decide to start doing YouTube?
Oh, my YouTube channel started completely by accident. So the only reason I started a YouTube channel in 2000, so I had 2 YouTube channels. I guess I don't really talk about this that often, but I had a YouTube channel in 2007 because I was on a TV show and they weren't putting any of the clips online. And there was a few like segments I was really proud of. So I created this I created this YouTube account with like a stupid username that wasn't anything related to me, just so these videos could like be somewhere online and I could just have them forever and they didn't just go on TV and disappear.
Yeah.
And then in 2011, I was same thing. Like these videos were going on TV and then, disappearing and never to be seen again. And I thought, man, I've done some really interesting interviews, not just with wrestlers, but with celebrities, and I've done some really cool movie reviews. And I just want these to live somewhere. So I just created a YouTube channel. I called it Chris Van Vliet. I threw it up there, didn't think anything of it, didn't even know about monetization, didn't know what a subscriber was, didn't know anything. I just wanted my videos to live somewhere online. And it didn't take long before I started like posting a few interviews that were getting a little bit of traction. I had some big interviews with the stars of the Twilight movies. I interviewed early on Henry Cavill right after he got announced that he was going to be Superman. I did a few wrestling interviews, one with The Miz that really started to gain traction. And that was honestly how it began, like just as this complete accident of like, let's just throw these things up there so they have a place to go. And here we are 9 years later, and it's grown into something with, a little more subscribers than I had to begin with.
When you talk about betting on yourself and, rolling the dice, people can get impatient, and people work so hard and they're like, man, I'm working so hard and then nothing's happening. What's the difference between hard work pays off and being at the right place at the right time?
Well, I think that they go hand in hand, because what's that whole phrase about like hard work and preparation? Like that's what luck is. Like luck is the combination of those two. You're never going to just get lucky. Maybe you'll have a video that like does better than your other ones, but hard work is the most important part about this. Like putting in that time, putting in the effort, especially with YouTube, showing up consistently. If you have a YouTube channel, let people know I'm going to put out 1 video a week, and then make that agreement that you will put out a video a week, and make that agreement with yourself, make that agreement with your viewers, and show up and don't make any excuses. And I think that when you start a YouTube channel or you start a podcast, it's like a contract that you're making with yourself and a contract that you're making with your listeners or your viewers, that you're going to show up every single week. And if you show up every single week, they'll start showing up every single week.
I want to go back to that internship that got you the job. How important was all of that to prep you? Because you, as an intern, you're the background player. You're, like you said, you were shooting, editing. You weren't in front of the camera until that day, 2 weeks later, that they put you in front of the camera. So how did that prepare you for your future, such as Inside Jam and 969?
So getting on TV, I mean, those were the first few steps. Basically, to get into the television industry, I needed that foot in the door somewhere. So I ended up, most of my career has been spent as an entertainment reporter, but that first job that I had at Chex TV in Peterborough, the internship that turned into a job, was a hard news reporter. And I just kind of realized at 22, 23 years old, that's not what I wanted to do for the rest of my career. So I think the biggest thing was just getting the reps in. And this applies to literally everything in life, but especially in broadcasting, was I just needed to get those reps in. I needed to figure out, who was Chris Van Vliet, the broadcaster? And how was he different from Chris Van Vliet, the individual? And also, how was he similar to that? And I look back at my first bunch of reports, and they're not good. They're not terrible, but they're definitely not good. And one of the biggest things I learned is who I was as a broadcaster. And you always hear like, oh, just be yourself. Well, being yourself, yeah, that's great advice, but be the best version of yourself. Like, be the amped up version of yourself. Don't be the version of yourself who's like come home from work after a long day and is hungry. Be the version of yourself that's like on your best possible moment of the month, and like capture that and then put that out on the screen, because as a news reporter, you were only on camera for like 20, 30 seconds. If you could like capture that, essence of the best day of your life in those 20, 30 seconds and put it out there, I feel like the viewers can really relate to that.
That was just so inspiring. When you talk about who is Chris Van Vliet, you try to find out who is yourself. There's somebody I also want you to describe. Can you tell me who Chris Sharp is?
My backyard wrestling alter ego. So I wanted to be a pro wrestler. I had set that goal, and I wanted to be a pro wrestler. I attended wrestling school. But if we back it up a little bit, in 2000 and 2001, I'm 16 and 17 years old. My friend had a backyard wrestling company, backyard wrestling federation, called HCW, and I was the biggest heel. I might have been the biggest star. Chris Sharp might have been the biggest star. He was sharp talking, sharp walking, sharp dressing.
There you go.
I feel like I'm cutting a promo here.
Yeah, be easy. Hold on, Chris. Be careful.
Two-time HCW champion.
Two-time?
Yeah, two-time HCW champion. Yeah. It was actually really fun. We had a website. We were recording every show, and then I was ripping the videos and uploading it to our website. Oh, like I learned a lot.
You were already doing posts before you even got into the industry.
I was editing. Yeah, I think that's actually part of the reason that I enjoyed it so much. But I also took a communication studies class in high school and learned how to edit, learned how to shoot.
What did your high school wrestling coach feel about you in the federation there?
Oh yeah, so I was a high school wrestler, and the high school wrestling coaches, they were great. They were super supportive, but they also were like, hey, that thing's like, that's the fake stuff. And what we do in here, like, this is real. So I don't know. That's funny. When you're 16 and 17, they're such formidable years of your life.
They are very formative.
Very. And I had like a lot of my friends were calling me Sharp, because like I had become Chris Sharp for a lot of my time. I developed an autograph for Chris Sharp. When I went to college a year later, like, people thought my actual last name was Chris Sharp for like years. Yeah, it was very interesting. Did you have to
live the gimmick? Did you miss it up in high school?
A little bit, but like, I look back now, and Chris Sharp wasn't like a very nice guy. He was like, he was the ultimate heel.
Right. And
I look back now and like, that's not the person I wanted to be. So I'm glad that, at some point in my life, I determined the separation between the backyard wrestling character I was and the human being that I was.
You got to work with a few companies over there, Prime Wrestling and Blueprint Pro. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've been a ring announcer for a bunch of different companies.
So as the ring announcer, I want to talk about the importance of being the ring announcer. I feel like you are the last commercial for this match. Did you ever feel that kind of pressure trying to sell the match to the people sitting there?
You're definitely the master of ceremonies. You're kind of like when you go to the circus and the ring master is there. That's kind of what you are. And there's something very strange about stepping foot into the ring. You're the first thing and the last thing that anyone sees at a wrestling show. And no one really talks about that. I think that a ring announcer is unfortunately one of the most thankless jobs in all of sports, in MMA and boxing, in wrestling for sure. But yeah, it's weird stepping into the ring. Like the crowd's kind of buzzing, like what's going to happen tonight? They're excited to be there. And then you step foot into the ring. You're the first thing they see that night, and you set the tone for the night. I mean, of course, over the course of the entire night, you play a very small role, but it's really important to kind of like get things going. And I remember Justin Roberts talking about this when he was in WWE. He would go out there and hype up the crowd, really get them all excited. And in his book, he talks about how Vince McMahon like pulled him aside and said, hey, stop doing that. The crowd only has so many pops in a night, and let's not waste them on, are you excited to be here? Let's use them on the superstars. I thought, wow, that's really interesting. And I don't know if that's true, because I think it's important to kind of warm up the audience. It's the same reason that all the late night talk shows have a warm-up person, to kind of like get them into the mood. But yeah, there's something really special about being a ring announcer, and I love nothing more than doing the championship introductions.
No, yeah, I was about to ask you, we're around the same age. Did you emulate the Fink at all in there?
No, I don't think so. No. And I think when you start to emulate someone else, then you're not authentic anymore. And I think maybe more I sound more like Chimmel than Fink. I think
Chimmel.
Chimmel.
I love Tony Chimmel. I love Tony Chimmel.
Yeah, it's funny though when you look back at the ring announcing style of 20 plus years ago, it's very different than what we have now with the way Justin Roberts is doing it, Mike Rome, Greg Hamilton. Like they're very over the top, like, which I love. I think that's so exciting because wrestling's over the top. And Bruce Buffer has turned this into like an absolute art in the UFC. It's, oh my goodness, he is so good at what he does.
So let's go back into your entertainment world. You have had the privilege and just awesome experiences sitting across all these Hollywood stars. Tell me about your first few interviews. I mean, you had to have been sitting there like, holy crap, I'm sitting across this person. Or was it a moment that you did put on your poker face? How difficult is it to not get out of work mode when you're sitting across these awesome people?
I'm going to be honest. The first time that I did it, I felt like I belonged. Like I felt like that was where I needed to be and where I was supposed to be. So after I had that job, the internship that turned into a job as a news reporter, I ended up getting a job on a show called 969 on MTV2 Canada. And I picked up my entire life, moved it from Toronto to Vancouver. It's like a 3,000 mile drive, took 4 days to drive there. And when I got there, my boss said, you're going to spend the day with Chingy tomorrow. And Chingy was that rapper that had that hit Right There.
Right There, yeah.
And this wasn't just an interview. And in fact, I've never done this since, this was 14 years ago. I haven't done it since then where I spent an entire day, but this was going to be a day in the life.
A whole profile piece type.
We picked him up from the airport and like did the entire day, like start to finish. And I'm like, I just felt like I belonged with him. Like I felt like that was where I was supposed to be. And there was no moment where I was like, this guy's one of the hottest rappers in the game right now. We went to an autograph signing at a mall and the line was 3 hours long. And at no point was I starstruck or anything. It was just like, yeah, like this is where I need to be in this exact moment. And I don't know what that is. I don't know where that came from, but I've carried that with me through the rest of my career. That's not to say that I don't get nervous before interviews or I don't appreciate how big the moment is just as it's about to happen. Like, especially when you're talking to someone like Tom Cruise or Meryl Streep or The Rock or Julia Roberts.
You got Oprah, didn't you?
Yeah, I talked to Oprah relatively early in my career. And Oprah was so great. She uses your name in a sentence and like, so good. Like,
yeah, my girlfriend goes nuts whenever we're doing a show and she's like, they said my name. One time, if I can tell a quick story, we met Gabriel Luna, who played Terminator in the last installment.
Yeah.
Real nice guy from Austin, Texas. He still looks like he's pinching himself to, find out if he's, experiencing that success. So my girlfriend was very, he's a very handsome guy. So she was, and the next day we went to continue the show and she was like talking about him all day. I was like, you know what, let's just go get a picture with you. She's like, no, it's okay. So I asked him, I'm like, he goes, hey D, what's up, man? I'm like, hey, my girlfriend would like a picture with you. And then, they took the picture. He goes, "Nice to see you again, Sasha." And I was like, I didn't even tell him her name. How the hell does he know? But yeah, she was so starstruck about it. As fast as your career goes, do you allow yourself to sit back and, celebrate certain milestones and moments?
I think it's so important to celebrate those little wins along the way. Like, I always say vague goals get vague results, specific goals get specific results. And it's important to have those huge pie in the sky ideas, those huge lofty goals that you're always chasing after. But within that are a bunch of little micro goals along the way. And I think it's so important to celebrate those little wins along the way as they're happening. Because if you don't, I think you're just going to get lost in the mix of like comparing yourself to what other people are doing. And really the only comparison you should be having is between you today and who you were yesterday. And I know it's been a really tough year. I know 2020 has been tough for a lot of people, but there's so much good that's also happening this year and so many opportunities. And if you're not going to end 2020 better than you ended 2019, just as a person, I feel like you're doing something wrong. Like, I just think there's a lot of opportunity here and you should go out and grab what's available.
What do you say to the guy or the man or woman that is just, I need something secure. It's hard for me to chase after it. I feel like people have their passion, but they just conform or they settle to a secure job, health benefits, and all that stuff. How do you convince those people, or how do you motivate them for them to be happy in what their passion is?
Well, I shouldn't have to motivate them. If they want more, then they can go out and grab it, because we live in this incredible, amazing time right now where there's a supercomputer that lives in our pocket and allows us to know literally every piece of information that has ever existed in the world. And you can build and create anything that you want. And if someone needs to be convinced that this is possible, they've already lost, because it's entirely possible. And if you say, I'm so busy with my job, that takes up too much time, or I want the health benefits or security of it, great. Well, what time do you get off work? You work a 9 to 5? Well, what are you doing between 6 and midnight? What are you doing? Are you watching TV? Are you, flipping and scrolling on Instagram? What are you doing? And I think that's the difference between the people that are chasing after the things that they want and those people that are just going to sit back and go, yeah, I'm okay with doing what I'm doing. I read a book called Mindset, which is a fascinating book by Dr. Carol Dweck. And she talks about how there's two different types of mindsets in the world. There's the fixed mindset and there's the growth mindset. And if you have that fixed mindset, you're just going to be settling for whatever it is that you're doing right now. But that growth mindset says, I can learn anything, I can be anything, I can do anything.
Yeah, I've learned this past year. And when you talk about the pandemic, the quarantine deal being beneficial, you do get to sit back and kind of reflect, okay, what am I doing right now? So I told myself, whatever I do next cannot be, I can walk into my old job if I wanted to and get the job back. But whatever I do next has to mean something. And everything that's been happening for me with the YouTube channel, I feel like I'm on my way. And I was talking to my girlfriend. I was just like, it's right there. People are just not going for it. It's right there. And there's nothing stopping. It sounds cliche and it sounds like an after school special, but there really is nothing stopping you but yourself.
Yeah.
Because I started making moves and I started reaching out to people and things are starting to go. And I'm thankful for that. So when you're doing press junkets and when you're doing red carpets, depending on the actor or actress that you're interviewing, they may have been in Hollywood for X amount of years, already a veteran, already 20, 25 years in the game. How do you pull them out of red carpet mode where it's all fixed answers and it's all pretty much sound bites that they know that you need for your show? Yeah. How do you pull them out of that and get their personality out and be more personable?
I try to find something that's different. So a lot of times when we're doing a movie junket, I'll be sitting in the movie theater while we're watching to the press screening and I'm taking notes, like writing down very specific lines from the movie, or very specific moments, or like really strange things. Like maybe the character had a certain poster on their bedroom wall. And I like to look at those moments, and then you can formulate those into a question, because it's so easy to be on a red carpet and go, what drew you to this role? Or what was it like working with so-and-so? And those are the cliche answers that they're going to answer all day. But what if you ask them, What if you asked them, they had a poster on their wall as their character did. What if you asked them, what posters did you have on your wall as a kid? Oh my gosh, wow. Never been asked that before. And I think it's those moments that take them out. That's the biggest thing you got to do is they're in press mode, like you were talking about. If you can take them out of that mode and then just get them back to the human that they are at the end of the day, that's when you have the best conversations. And look, it's very tough to do in a 2-minute interaction on a red carpet, in a 4-minute junket interaction, but it's possible. It's possible to do that. And, you know, I've learned from some of my friends who are the absolute best at doing junket interviews, Jake Hamilton and Kevin McCarthy. And they're just so good at being able to take people out of those moments and make it just more of a conversation than an interview.
Yeah. As an interviewer, I don't want to be, I mean, we spoke a little bit off camera, but I don't want to be placed in that, you know, that pile of people that just ask the same questions. That's why I looked up Shawn Mendes and I looked up your high school and I looked up what team they were. You know, I want to stick out. So as an interviewer, there's a million podcasts now. There's a million YouTube channels. Can you talk about the double-edged sword that is this accessibility and the fact that there are just so many people in the field now? The industry model is different. Now, you know, before I can only use 5 or 6 channels on my network TV. And then now there's just a million cable channels. There's a whole bunch of podcasts, a whole bunch of YouTube channels. Can you talk about the industry model, how it's changed over the past 10 years?
Yeah, it's changed drastically, especially since I got in 2005 when I started my broadcasting career. Broadcasting was very much exactly what it said. It was broad. You put a bunch of different shows on TV, and me and you as the consumer, as the viewer, would flick channels and stop when we found something that we liked. It was broad. You put out the biggest, broadest product possible, and it appealed to, you know, hopefully the broadest audience possible. Well, now that's completely changed. It's completely shifted because you don't even need to turn on your TV anymore. And if you don't like the offerings on TV, instead of the model of 15 years ago where you're just like, oh, I'll watch this anyway. Like, I guess the other options were read a book or like play a board game. Right. But, you know, now it's, I don't like what I'm seeing on TV. I'll just pull out my phone or my laptop or my iPad and I'll just watch what I want to watch. So it's gone from broadcasting to niche casting, because now I can look up the exact topic that I'm interested in, the exact person I'm interested in, and dive down this deep rabbit hole of finding as much information about that person or that topic as possible. So the double-edged sword here is the best thing about a YouTube channel or podcast is anyone can do it. And the worst thing about a YouTube channel or podcast is anyone can do it. And with that,
that's almost like running for president.
That anyone can do it?
Yeah.
I can't do it.
I'm figuring because of the president we have now, you know, when I feel like when Obama became president, I'm like, wow, anybody can become president. And then when our president now became president, I'm like, wow, anybody can become president.
So in the world of YouTube and a podcast, you're kind of a needle in a haystack. And it's really important to figure out what you do differently. What makes you special? What makes you stand out? What makes viewers want to come to your channel once and then also return back for a bunch of different videos after that?
It's just it's such a tricky business. So I've learned that you're a big fan of bass fishing, and you even have a victory in a tournament. Big Fish of the Day got a 6-pound bass in 2013 in Ohio. I think I got all that correctly.
I think it's 6 pounds 7 ounces. That was
okay. I saw the 7 ounces. I wanted to keep it.
6 pound smallmouth. I mean, it's big. A 6 pound 7 ounce.
7 ounce though. Those 7 ounces, they always the ounces make a difference. How did all that start? I mean, that sounds like such a stupid question, but where did all of that come from? Your huge fandom, and to the point that you even have a clothing line on it.
Yeah, I have a bass fishing brand. We sell tungsten fishing weights. It's called Woo Tungsten. That's how we pronounce it. Look, I've always been really passionate about the things that I like. And when I discovered fishing when I was 4 years old, we went up to our neighbor's cottage. And all the kids were a little bit older than me. My parents didn't really know what to do to kind of entertain me. So they stuck me out on the dock with a fishing rod and a bobber and a worm. And I caught my first ever fish. It was a little rock bass, but I was hooked. Pun intended. I was hooked. And then when I'm passionate about something, I go all the way in on it. And that's been the case with baseball and fishing, certainly pro wrestling, the case with broadcasting. I just put all of myself into it. And when I was 14, I was seeing these I was seeing these bass fishing tournaments on TV, and I'm like, I want to do that. And I was like blown away that was actually an option where I lived. And I started doing bass tournaments and did them for, man, many, many years. I haven't fished in a bass tournament now in like 2 years, but I was fishing in 1 to 15 or 20 tournaments every single year ever since I was 14. So the idea here, like, I know a lot of people will be like, well, how can you win a bass fishing tournament? Isn't it luck? Which you bring in your 5 biggest bass at the end of every day for the total weight. And some of these tournaments are 2 or 3 days long. So it's your combined weight over those 2 or 3 days. Yeah, and that's been something I've always been a part of. I will always have a huge affinity for smallmouth bass and largemouth bass.
It's such a contrast from what people know you from. Does it allow you to take a break from the fast-paced life of entertainment news?
Yeah, it's so juxtaposed, right? And I think the other thing that would surprise a lot of people is up until 2 years ago, I drove a jacked up pickup truck because that pickup truck was towing my Ranger bass boat that I was taking to Lake Okeechobee so I could go catch bass. But yeah, it was so juxtaposed to like be on a red carpet wearing, a tailored suit with Tom Cruise or someone, to then literally a day or two later be wearing like full bibs in a rain suit and like catching largemouth bass. They're so juxtaposed. I don't know if I ever fished to get away from, the fast-paced life of television. I think I just fished because I loved it. And I'm going to be honest, fishing is not exactly the most relaxing thing, especially when you're in a tournament. There's a lot of decisions that you're making. It can be pretty stressful.
Yeah, those 7 ounces saved your ass, didn't they?
That was a giant fish. It wasn't the biggest. It was the biggest fish of that day. It wasn't.
But it wasn't the biggest fish you caught, though, right? I saw another interview.
I've caught so many. That might be I think that's the biggest smallmouth I've caught, but that's definitely not the biggest fish. I've caught much larger saltwater fish like groupers, sharks.
I'm gonna hold you to it. If I ever go your way, you got to take me fishing, bro.
Done. We'll do it.
Done? Because I've only gone fishing once and I caught crabs. So
I'm sorry to hear that.
Moving on. Well, it was one of my 2 best friends. But another thing I did want to talk about was I'm sorry. Go ahead and promote your the Woo Tungsten. Let them know where you can find it.
Yeah, if anyone listening to this is a bass fisherman, we have the best tungsten weights in the world. Woo Tungsten. Where fishing is a contact sport. And you can check us out on Instagram, Woo Tungsten, or wootungsten.com.
Not bad. Make sure you guys check that out. Sweet. I'm gonna go fishing with Chris Van Vliet. Now talking about your the wrestling world. You worked so hard that you ended up getting signed by AEW, and that at the time AEW was just this. I mean, it still is. It's this promotion that's just. It's looking at everything we've been presented, and it's like, no, we're gonna do this. And excited for you when you got signed. Talk about your experience that first show under the banner and what the morale was in the back.
Yeah, it was pretty cool to be invited to be part of that first episode on TNT. I mean, think about this. As a lifelong wrestling fan, that was the first time that wrestling had been on TNT in almost 20 years. And to be invited to be part of like the super small portion of that was so cool. And to share that moment with Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes, and Private Party and Helico and Jack Evans was really cool. And just being able to, from start to finish, I was there during the production meeting, the first ever Dynamite production meeting. We went over what the entire show was going to look like, to being part of that show, to leaving that night and knowing that, like, my goodness, AEW created history tonight. Like, they made history. And I was so super fortunate to be, and that was all I thought I was going to be part of. I thought I was just going to be on that first show. And then I was invited back a few weeks later to do another segment. Yeah, it's just been really cool being able to be part of that first show and also just watch it grow, like watch AEW grow. Also, conversely, watch NXT grow and watch WWE's product kind of shift and change. I'm just such a big believer that rising tides lift all boats. And that's what we have now. We have a rising tide of competition, and the winners here are us, the fans.
That's awesome. No, yeah. I feel like now providing an alternative, which is the phrase that they've used, the past few years, providing the alternative allows the sense of security to kind of loosen up a little bit, because people are it's like they were walking on eggshells with this one company that was huge, but now like there are other places to go. It's okay. There's jobs everywhere for everybody. And it's cool because AEW provided a lot of jobs for people. That's what I feel was the most important, were jobs, secure paying jobs for these awesomely talented people. One thing I've always admired, probably the second most thing I've always admired about you, besides your work ethic and your content, was your suits, bro. Your suits are insane, down to the socks and the shoes. Where did your love for suits come from?
So when I really started out in broadcasting, I was like, especially when I was on MTV, I was wearing like t-shirts and hoodies and hats, sometimes jeans. And then I went from there to my next job in Toronto on Inside Jam, kind of the same thing. My boss said, we just want you to be you. And then I started doing like red carpets for like the Toronto Film Festival. And I'm like, well, I can't wear t-shirt and jeans on a red carpet. So that's where it began. But then when I got my next job in Cleveland, I was an entertainment reporter there for the CBS station. My boss said, like, I want you to, be a little bit more fashion forward. And I was a little bit hesitant, if I'm being completely honest. I wanted to just wear the t-shirts and the jeans. It's where I felt most comfortable. I thought that was like authentically who I was. And I thought, all right, if I'm going to have to start wearing suits, I want to do a little something so that it personalizes a little bit. And that's when I started wearing fun socks. If I'm going to have to wear a suit, and you don't see the socks on TV, but if I'm going to have to wear a suit, at least I know that my socks are still like holding true to who I am. And that morphed into like fun pocket squares, and that morphed into like cool liners on the inside.
The liners on the inside, yeah.
The liners, the monograms on the inside. It turned into a lot of like fun stuff. And now I kind of wear it as a badge of honor. Like, if I'm going to wear a suit, I'm going to wear a suit. Like, I'm not just going to wear some like, black suit and a, red tie or something, which is fine. But I want to wear a suit that makes people go, ooh, that is a nice suit, and what a fit. And I think there's nothing better than a custom fitting suit.
Those fits are beautiful. I got fitted for a wedding, and man, I was just like, this is great. I love a good suit. Originally being from New Jersey, where the Rat Pack ruled, for a time.
Right.
I love that stuff. Sinatra and Dean Martin and everything. So, the appearance didn't go unnoticed. There's one question I do want to ask you, and it has to do with the opposite gender. So you were interviewing Deborah Mann and Dakota Johnson on this viral video now, where you were trying to ask you questions and they were flirting with you. So I saw your face and I'm like, any guy would love these two beautiful women to just be flirting with them the entire time. But my question is, I looked at it and I'm like, if I was the actor and I had a female reporter and I was saying the same things, I would be considered a pig. I would probably not get a few jobs for the next few years. Did you have any of those feelings after the moment was finished?
No, I say on camera, like, this is the best interview ever. Like, I was fully feeding into this as much as they were feeding into it. And look, when I walked in that room, I didn't know what to expect. Everyone that was walking out of that interview room, they were saying, oh, that was a tough interview. Like, it's not going that great. And I went in just like, all right, well, let's see what we can get. And I went in and they started having fun with it. And I thought, well, how much fun could I have?
Let's go.
And I was on a show in Miami called Deco Drive that loved this kind of stuff. So I thought, if I can kind of push the boundaries here, push the envelope, let's see what we can come up with. And I think a lot of people would have like started with that moment of like, oh, this is fun. And then switched like right over to like, okay, let's ask the questions I wrote down here. I just thought, let's see how far we can go with this. And it was fun. And look, this also happened in 2016. It was a completely different time. Me Too wasn't a thing right at that time. This interview probably would not have happened in 2020. I just
was the apology necessary, or did you?
No, not at all. In fact, I wasn't expecting an apology. It was like a year later, I saw Dakota Johnson at a different movie junket. And when I sat down, she goes, did Leslie Mann and I sexually harass you during an interview? I'm like, oh, no, it was great. It was fun. Like, don't. And she's like, no, I'd like to apologize on her behalf. I'm like, no, it was great. It was fun. So no, of course the apology wasn't necessary. It was a fun moment with 3 consenting adults that said, let's have this fun moment. Let's create this great thing. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't think the moment would be as big as it was. I really just thought Dakota Johnson hadn't had a lot of fun in any of the interviews that she had done. Mm-hmm. Her interviews were just, they were just fairly, I don't know, run of the mill. Yeah. This was the first time she was really having fun. And I'm like, oh, her 50 Shades of Grey fans are going to love this. That's all I thought. They're just going to love the fact that she's showing a little bit of personality. And then it turned into, this video that has as many views as it does now.
Yeah, I mean, we're both in the eyeball business. If it gets eyes on it, it's good. And I just feel like there might be this fine line where you're like, oh, damn it. Like, do you feel like some people only do it for the views as opposed to this is what they're passionate about?
Of course. Yeah, I think you can look at any successful YouTuber's channel and go, you were definitely into that video. This video is just, you needed some content here and this is what it is. But that's also the name of the game. You can't look at every single episode of The Tonight Show and think that it's Jimmy Fallon's best episode ever.
Yeah, I know what you mean, because I attended one taping of The Tonight Show and I loved the experience. I even got to talk to Jimmy Fallon afterwards, but cool. It's just, I mean, I'm not going to name the guests, but it was just like, it was. And I was just more excited about seeing the roots in Jimmy Fallon.
And I think that to your point here about YouTube, it's you're making content every single day because you love making content every single day. And you know that some videos are going to perform better than others, but that doesn't mean that just because a video doesn't perform well, that you're not passionate about it anymore. If you're not passionate about YouTube, you don't need to continue to do it. That's the cool thing about it.
When going back, when you talked about people using their time, 9 to 5, what are you doing from 6 to 12? What does your day look like? What time do you wake up and, what time do you hit the gym? What time do you do your emails? How does a day in the life of Chris Van Vliet look like?
I can tell you what today looks like. So I woke up with a time that began with a 6. And then I went straight to the gym. Well, I ate a little bit and I went straight to the gym. Then I did a little bit of work for my fishing company. And then it was into this interview. I have an interview right after this with the Good Brothers. Then it's going to be editing my podcast. Then I'm going to go take a hike because I think that it's so important. Look, I think that there's 3 things that are really important every single day.
Okay.
Number 1 is prioritizing sleep. I think it's so important to get as much sleep as your body needs. Some people that's 6 hours. Some people that's 8 hours, whatever it is. I just listened to an interview with Matthew McConaughey who says if he doesn't get 9.5 hours, he's off.
I saw that one.
Right. I think it's important to prioritize some sort of physical activity. For me, it's going to the gym and running and doing cardio. And then I think number 3, it's important to prioritize eating well. And I think that if you have those 3 things, everything else kind of falls into place. The other thing is at the end of every day, I write down my get to do list. These are the things that I get to do the next day. It's not a to-do list, not the things I have to do tomorrow. These are the things I get to do. I'm privileged to be able to do these things. And I write that down at the night before the next day. And then the next morning, it just feels great being able to cross those things off as the day goes on. And sometimes they're little things like doing this interviews on there or going to the gym or maybe going to the post office. But the more things you cross off, the more accomplishments you've had in that day. And then you look back at this when you go to bed that night and you go, my goodness, I did 18 things today. I crossed every single thing off. And it's also, we talked about having an agreement when you start a YouTube channel or a podcast.
Yeah.
It's an agreement that you're having with yourself. I'm going to do these things. I don't feel like working out, but I wrote it down there. I'm going to go work out.
Man, it's been so cool to talk to you. I'm not going to lie. It's been inspiring. I've been a fan for a long time, and I want to thank you so much for, doing the show. Much appreciated. I do have a few questions left. I like to call it the lightning round. You just shoot out the quickest answers you can give me.
Okay, bring it.
How do you spell Hulk Hogan?
Yeah, I put this tweet out yesterday because it's so true. I thought his name was Hulk Hogan.
Hogan. I thought the same deal. I swear to God.
I even might have thought when I was younger that it was Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan. Right? I also thought his name was Roddy Piper.
Oh, I thought so too. I never knew it was Rowdy. I thought it was Roddy.
I thought he was Roddy Piper.
Hey, you know what? Now that we're on that subject, you're familiar with there was a farmer who had a dog and Bingo was the name, all right?
Of course, yeah.
Who's Bingo?
The dog?
Repeat the whole thing again and tell me who's Bingo.
Farmer Brownie had a dog.
No, it's not Father Brownie. What are they doing in Canada?
Yeah, it is.
No. There was a farmer who had a dog and Bingo was his name-o.
I don't think I'm going to look this up.
You're going to look this up right now?
Yeah.
Just put Bingo was his name-o, I guess.
Okay.
I want to know who Bingo is.
Oh, you're right. There was a farmer
who had a dog.
And Bingo was his name-o.
Who's Bingo? Is it the farmer or the dog?
I think the dog.
I'm going to say the farmer.
Because all of the images on YouTube are a picture of a dog.
That's what they want you to see, Chris.
And then,
hey, okay, Chris, you are a traveler. I want to know, In-N-Out versus Whataburger.
Yeah. What kind of question is this? Of course it's In-N-Out. Jeez, Whataburger.
Are you serious? Whataburger is disgusting?
Yeah. Yeah.
Jeez.
In-N-Out. Although
we're going to be talking about that during our fishing trip, sir.
That's fine. I'll bring the In-N-Out.
I'll bring In-N-Out. I don't know. They have like one Whataburger in Florida, don't they?
Oh, well, I live in California now, so.
Oh, that's right, California.
There's an In-N-Out like 2 minutes from my place, which is very dangerous.
What's one thing you do not miss about the red carpets?
The waiting. That's the biggest thing because the red carpet will actually start at 7. Mm-hmm. The press check-in will be at like 4:30. So you basically get there at like 4:30, you get into your spot, and then you just wait.
Is it competitive or is it more like
it can be competitive. It's all about timing. Sometimes people will sometimes the celebrities will make the time to talk to everybody. Like The Rock's really good at that. Tom Cruise is really good at that. Will Smith's really good at that. Lots of people are good at that. But it can get competitive when they haven't given themselves enough time to walk the red carpet and talk to everybody. And when it gets competitive like that, it's like, all right, we're going to have to just get what we can get, shouting out questions or whatever it is.
Talk about your friendship with The Rock.
I wish it was a true friendship.
He always sees you and he's always so gracious when he sees you.
And I think that's just The Rock, that's just who The Rock is, not just with me, but with everybody. But the fact that The Rock is aware of who I am and The Rock knows my name, it's pretty wild. I was a huge Rock fan in high school. Mm-hmm. So the fact that The Rock now knows my name is pretty crazy to me.
Pretty sharp, if you ask me. Nice. Mr. Van Vliet, where can they find you on social media?
It's my name, at Chris Van Vliet, VanVliet. And here on YouTube, it's just Chris Van Vliet. So check me out.
I'm sure everybody will. Everybody already does. I've been a big fan of Chris Van Vliet for the past few years. Very appreciative for all this time. This is D. You can find me at DNC Digital on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I hope everybody has a good day. Make sure you guys check out Can You Handlebar. It's an American-made company for everybody who has facial hair, beard balm, beard oil, mustache wax, everything you need. Use my promo code DNC Digital for 15% off. Everybody have a great day and take care of yourselves.